Hi, everyone. Today I want to talk about something I know so many of you have felt. That strange, intense moment when your manifestation feels closer than ever, yet everything around you seems to fall apart. This video is about why your biggest desires often show up right after you almost give up, why the pressure increases, why your emotions feel heavier, why the silence gets louder, why you begin to question everything right before the breakthrough finally arrives. We're going to explore the energetic threshold that happens just before your reality shifts, the moment where your old identity collapses, your new timeline is forming, and you're caught in the in-between. And I'll show you this isn't a sign of failure, but the clearest proof that your manifestation is already in motion, following the exact principles Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches about coherence, neuroplasticity, and the collapse of old patterns. So stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll understand why things feel hardest right before they align, and how to move through that stage without losing faith in the process. 1. The sacred threshold, the moment just before reality shifts. What if the moment you feel the most pressure, the most doubt, the most emotional heaviness is actually the moment right before everything in your reality shifts? What if the silence you interpret as nothing happening is, in truth, the universe rearranging itself for you? Most people think manifestations come in a straight line: intention, belief, evidence, result. But real transformation doesn't look like that. Real transformation has a threshold, a sacred point where the old version of you collapses and the new one starts to take shape. And it's in that in-between space that most people give up. I want to speak directly to you because I know this space intimately. I've been in that moment where everything feels like it's breaking down, where your desires feel out of reach, where you feel tired of waiting, tired of trusting the process, tired of pretending you're fine. And yet, looking back, I can see that those were the exact moments when something was rearranging behind the scenes, something I couldn't see yet, but could feel as pressure. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that every time you ask for a new reality, your brain and your energy begin a process of reorganization. Old neural networks start to dismantle, emotional habits begin to dissolve, and your nervous system enters unfamiliar territory, the unknown. The unknown is the birthplace of every manifestation, but it rarely feels comfortable. Instead, it often feels like doubt, confusion, or emotional exhaustion. Not because you're failing, but because you are crossing that threshold where the identity you used to be can no longer survive. There's this moment when the old reality hasn't fully left and the new reality hasn't fully anchored. You're not who you were, but you're also not yet who you're becoming. This space is sacred, but it's also incredibly challenging. Your subconscious mind is still attached to the familiar, the old emotions, the old beliefs, the old patterns, because the familiar feels safe. But the future you want requires you to detach from what's familiar before you can fully experience what's new. It's like walking across a bridge, and for a moment, you're suspended between two worlds. I experienced this vividly years ago. I was manifesting a specific outcome in my life, something that felt deeply aligned with my purpose, something that made every cell in my body expand with possibility. I was meditating daily, doing the inner work, staying committed. And yet 1 month before the manifestation finally appeared, everything went quiet. And not the peaceful kind of quiet, a silence that felt like disconnection, a silence that made me doubt myself, a silence that made me question if I had imagined the progress I thought I was making. My emotions felt heavier than usual. I remember waking up one morning thinking, maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe I should stop trying so hard. I felt stuck between wanting to surrender the desire and wanting to hold onto it just a little longer. I didn't realize it then, but I was standing in the sacred threshold, the exact space where most people walk away without knowing they were inches away from their breakthrough. According to Dr. Joe, this moment is not a sign of failure, but a sign of imminent change. When your old emotional patterns start to dissolve, your body experiences what he calls withdrawal from the familiar self. The body goes into survival mode because it thinks you're losing something essential, when in truth, you're losing what has been limiting you. The chaos, the doubt, the silence, the emotional fatigue, they're not punishment. They're evidence that a part of you is dying, so a new part of you can be born. So often, we misunderstand this threshold. We think, I'm tired, so it must not be working. I'm feeling doubt, so maybe this isn't for me. Nothing is happening, so I should lower my expectations. But the universe doesn't show you evidence while you're still attached to the version of you that asked for the manifestation. Evidence comes when you become a match for the version of you that receives it. And becoming that version requires internal collapse. Not collapse as in defeat, but collapse as in shedding. Shedding the emotional density that belongs to your past. Shedding the identity that cannot hold the frequency of your future. Think about it like this. When you order something online, the package doesn't arrive immediately. There's a process, a route, a series of steps happening out of sight. And just because you can't see the delivery truck doesn't mean it isn't on its way. But unlike online deliveries, manifestations require you to match the address. The address is your vibration. And the moment right before your manifestation arrives is often the moment where you're updating your internal address to match what you asked for. This is why it feels uncomfortable. You're being rewired. Your energy is shifting. Your brain is recalibrating, and your nervous system is letting go of what's familiar. Pressure is not the problem. Pressure is the portal. Silence is not the absence of movement. Silence is the restructuring of energy. Emotional exhaustion is not a sign to quit. It's a sign that the old emotions are losing their power over you. Most people interpret this threshold as the universe saying no, but it's actually the universe asking, are you willing to hold the frequency of what you asked for, even when you can't see proof yet? This is the moment where trust becomes a bridge, where persistence becomes a signal, where staying open becomes the key that unlocks the next stage of your reality. And once you understand this threshold, you'll never mistake this moment for failure again. Because the truth is, manifestations often come right after the moment you almost give up. Not because giving up triggers them, but because that moment reveals that you have already become the version of you who doesn't rely on external evidence to believe. And that inner shift is exactly what allows the external reality to appear. 2. The inner breakdown before the outer breakthrough. What if the moments when everything feels like it's falling apart are actually the moments when everything is finally coming together? What if your doubt, your emotional fatigue, and your sense of nothing is working are not signs that you're off track, but signs that you're shedding the last layers of who you used to be? This is the part of the manifestation journey that most people misunderstand. They think the breakdown means the universe is saying no. But in reality, it's your subconscious clearing space for the yes. The inner breakdown is not about things going wrong. It's about things being dismantled. And dismantling doesn't feel pretty. It doesn't feel empowering. It feels like pressure. It feels like friction. It feels like emotional heaviness. It feels like confusion. Because your mind is letting go of the structures that once made you feel safe, even if those structures were limiting you. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that when you hold a new intention long enough, your brain begins to prune old neural connections and build new ones. The old pathways, the ones wired through repetition, trauma, habit, and emotional familiarity, begin to weaken. And weakening feels like breakdown. Your body goes into what he calls withdrawal from the familiar, because the identity you've known for years is starting to dissolve.
You're not just changing your thoughts, you're changing the chemistry of who you are. You're changing the emotional addictions that defined your past self. You're changing the energetic patterns that guided your behavior. That process is profound, but it's also disorienting. I remember a period in my life when I was manifesting something I wanted deeply, a shift in my career that felt aligned with purpose and expansion. I was doing everything right on the inside: meditation, emotional coherence, gratitude, visualization, elevated emotions. But suddenly, after weeks of progress, I hit a wall. Not a physical wall, but an emotional one. I felt tired, drained, unmotivated, as if a part of me didn't want the new reality anymore. I remember waking up one morning thinking, maybe I'm pushing too hard. Maybe this isn't meant for me. At the time, I didn't know that I was in the breakdown stage, the space where the subconscious resists letting go of the old identity because it feels like death. The familiar feels like survival, even when it keeps us stuck. So when we try to outgrow it, the subconscious panics. That panic shows up as doubt, as fatigue, as resistance, as the urge to abandon your vision, as the subtle pull to go back to the old ways just for comfort. Not because you're failing, but because you're transitioning. What you're feeling in these moments is not a lack of progress. It's an internal detox. You're releasing emotional patterns that literally lived in your body: fear, unworthiness, impatience, scarcity, self-doubt. These emotions have been encoded in your biology for years, and as you stop feeding them with attention, they start to surface. And when they surface, it feels like breakdown.
According to Dr. Joe, you cannot take your old emotional signature into a new reality. The frequency of fear cannot carry you into a future built from love. The frequency of unworthiness cannot carry you into a future built from receiving. The frequency of doubt cannot carry you into a future built from trust. So these emotions must rise, release, and dissolve. And that process feels like chaos. Think of it like a computer upgrading its operating system. Before the new version can install, the old files must be deleted, the outdated programs must be removed, and the system must restart. That restart isn't a sign that the computer is broken. It's a natural part of transforming into something more efficient, more capable, more aligned with what you want to create. Your mind works the same way. But here's the part that's even more profound. When everything feels like it's falling apart inside, it's usually because the new neural pathways are being built. Your brain is literally wiring itself to match the future you've been imagining. Your heart is learning to generate elevated emotions more consistently. Your energy field is stabilizing in a frequency you're not used to yet. And your subconscious is releasing identities that cannot survive in that new frequency. This is why breakdown happens right before breakthrough, because breakthrough requires identity death, and identity death feels like collapse. You begin to lose the version of yourself that believed you had to fight for everything, the version of yourself that believed you weren't enough, the version of yourself that believed things only happened through struggle, the version of yourself that lived in survival mode. And losing that version feels like disorientation. Your mind doesn't recognize who you're becoming yet, and your past self is fading. This is the middle space, the space where nothing feels solid and everything feels uncertain. But uncertainty is the birthplace of possibility. Uncertainty is the field where the quantum world begins to reorder itself for you. I want you to imagine an archer pulling back a bow. The moment of maximum tension, the deep pull backward, is what launches the arrow forward. Without the tension, the arrow has no momentum. Your breakdown is that pullback.
It feels like regression, but it's actually the buildup of energy that will propel you into your manifestation. What you call nothing happening is actually everything happening internally. Your brain is rewiring, your energy is recalibrating, your subconscious is releasing, and your heart is preparing to open to something bigger than what you've known. What looks like resistance is your old identity dissolving. What feels like doubt is old emotional memory rising to be released. What feels like exhaustion is your nervous system letting go of survival mode. What feels like silence is the universe responding in a frequency you're not used to hearing yet. And right when this inner breakdown hits its peak, that's when the outer breakthrough becomes inevitable. Because once the old emotional structure collapses, there's nothing left to anchor you to your past. You have no choice but to rise. And rise you will. 3. The universe's final calibration, the energetic test. Have you ever noticed that the moment you decide to change your life, the universe seems to ask, "Are you sure?" Not in a mystical, dramatic way, but in small, precise ways that touch your emotions, your beliefs, and your sense of trust. This is what many people call the energetic test, but I want you to think of it more as calibration. The universe isn't trying to see if you deserve something. It's simply checking whether your internal signal matches what you've been asking for. Because every manifestation is about alignment, not effort, not force, not willpower. Alignment. And alignment is, by definition, something that must be stable, something that must be held, something that must be embodied even when circumstances don't cooperate yet. That's why this stage feels challenging. You're asked to hold the frequency of your future while still living in the conditions of your past. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about coherence. Coherence between the brain and the heart. Coherence between thought and emotion. Coherence between your internal world and the reality you want to create. And coherence gets tested. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because the universe is reflecting back to you the parts of yourself that still vibrate at the level of your old reality. So the question becomes gentle but direct. Can you stay who you've decided to become even when life gives you a moment that tempts you to go back to who you were? I remember going through this myself when I was manifesting something deeply meaningful, a change I could feel in my whole body. I had been practicing elevated emotions. I had been visualizing the outcome. I had been doing the work. And then something unexpected happened. 2 small events in the same week triggered old emotional patterns. Doubt resurfaced. Impatience resurfaced. I felt myself slipping back into familiar reactions. And for a moment, I wondered if all my inner work had been pointless. But looking back, I see it with such clarity. Those moments weren't signs of failure. They were invitations. Invitations to choose, consciously, deliberately, who I wanted to be now. The universe was holding up a mirror, showing me, here are the last places where your old self still lives. Are you ready to let them go? Are you ready to hold the frequency of who you're becoming instead? This is the essence of the energetic test. It's not punishment. It's preparation. Think of it like tuning a musical instrument. When an instrument is slightly out of tune, the sound isn't wrong, it's just not in resonance. So you adjust. You tighten a string, you loosen another. You bring the instrument into alignment with the music it's meant to play. You are the same. Your frequency is being tuned to match the reality you've asked to experience. And tuning can feel uncomfortable, not because it's painful, but because it's unfamiliar. You're being asked to stabilize a new emotional state that your body isn't fully used to yet. You're being asked to trust without evidence, to stay open without certainty, to remain coherent without validation. That's the calibration. Let's talk about what this looks like in real life.
Maybe you're manifesting love, and an unexpected trigger reactivates your old fear of abandonment. That's not the universe saying you're not ready, it's the universe showing you the energy you must release to become ready. Maybe you're manifesting financial change, and an unexpected bill arrives. The test isn't the bill. The test is whether you collapse into the old feeling of scarcity or breathe into the new identity of stability. Maybe you're manifesting a new version of yourself, and suddenly an old pattern shows up, inviting you to repeat it. But this time, you pause, you breathe, and you choose differently. That choice, that tiny moment of awareness, is coherence. That's alignment. The universe doesn't test you with dramatic storms. It tests you with subtle invitations, soft openings, emotional thresholds. These moments help you see whether your vibration is anchored or fragile, whether your belief is embodied or intellectual, whether your heart is open or guarded. The calibration is never cruel. It's always kind. It's always purposeful. It's always for you, not against you. And when you start to see it that way, the entire manifestation journey becomes lighter. You stop feeling like you're being evaluated, and you start feeling like you're being prepared. Dr. Joe often says, your personality creates your personal reality. And personality means the way you think, feel, and behave on a daily basis. The energetic test is simply the universe asking, have you truly become the person who can receive what you asked for? Because your future can't land in a nervous system that's still wired for your past. Your breakthrough can't settle into a heart that's still closed. Your manifestation can't align with a frequency that keeps collapsing into doubt. So the calibration helps you practice coherence. It helps you become stable in the emotional signature of your future. The universe isn't waiting for perfection, it's waiting for consistency. It's waiting for you to stay in that elevated state long enough for the external world to rearrange around it. And here's the beautiful part. Once you pass this stage, something shifts, not outside, inside. You stop needing evidence. You stop needing signs. You stop needing reassurance. You simply know. And that knowing is the final frequency of manifestation. When you reach that place of internal stability, the universe responds quickly, not because reality suddenly changed, but because you did. You became the version of yourself who no longer vibrates at the level of waiting, longing, or doubting. You vibrate at the level of receiving. And that's when the manifestation becomes inevitable. 4. The completion of the loop. How to stand firm until it arrives. There's a moment in every manifestation journey where it feels like you've already done everything. The mindset work, the alignment, the visualization, the inner releasing, and now you're simply suspended, not moving backward, not fully moving forward, just held in this strange energetic quiet. This final phase is what I call the completion of the loop, a cycle that began the moment you formed your desire, intensified through the emotional and energetic shifts you experienced, and now reaches its final closing. And even though many people think this is the moment where they should do more, push harder, or force some kind of sign, this stage requires the opposite. This is the stage of energetic steadiness. It's where you're invited into a deeper level of presence, trust, surrender, and emotional neutrality, not because the universe wants to test your patience, but because manifestation can only finalize itself in an environment without internal conflict. Think of it like this. Your desire has already been created energetically. That part is done. It's not pending approval, it's not being evaluated, it's not waiting for you to say the perfect affirmation. It already exists. What's happening now is simply the process of your physical reality catching up to that energetic truth. And for this to happen smoothly, your energy needs to be receptive, not tense, open, not constricted, trusting, not grasping.
This is why this stage is subtle, and also why it's so commonly misunderstood. When you reach the final stage, you are not waiting, you are holding. There's a massive energetic difference between these two states. Waiting comes with anxiety, pressure, fear, and the feeling that something is missing. Holding is grounded, calm, confident, and rooted in the understanding that your desire is already on its way. Waiting creates resistance. Holding creates magnetism. In fact, most people collapse in this final stage not because their manifestation isn't coming, but because the emotional intensity of the in-between space makes them second-guess themselves. This is when thoughts like, maybe it isn't working, maybe I did something wrong, maybe the universe forgot about me, start to appear. But here's the truth. If you're feeling that internal pressure, the emotional sensitivity, the urge to take control, or the discomfort of not seeing physical evidence yet, these are not signs of failure. They are the final destabilization of the old timeline. Your previous identity, the one who didn't have what you're asking for, is dissolving. And dissolving always feels like a mix of confusion, discomfort, or emotional fluctuation. You're not doing anything wrong. You're simply closing a cycle. This stage is about one thing above all: letting go. And now we arrive at one of the most important principles of manifestation. Letting go is not abandoning the desire. Letting go is releasing the resistance that blocks its arrival. People often think that letting go means giving up, forgetting the desire, pretending they never wanted it, acting like it doesn't matter. But that's not letting go. That's emotional suppression. True letting go is energetic relaxation. It's the moment you stop mentally chasing the desire. It's the moment you stop emotionally checking the progress bar. It's the moment you stop needing constant reassurance from the universe. Letting go is saying, I know it's coming. I don't have to hold tension for it. I can breathe again. Imagine drawing back on a bowstring. You can pull forever, but if you never release, the arrow will never fly. Your desire works the same way. Too much tension creates stagnation. Releasing the grip activates the flow. And here's something powerful. Most manifestations don't arrive because people didn't ask hard enough or didn't visualize long enough. They don't arrive because people never released the bowstring. This final stage is about getting out of the way so the universe can finish the delivery. How do you hold without collapsing? You stand firm not by forcing yourself to feel positive all the time, but by embodying emotional flexibility. You let thoughts come and go without feeding them. You allow yourself to experience temporary doubt without turning it into a narrative. You stay grounded in your body instead of spiraling into mental overanalysis. You cultivate an inner posture that sounds like this: I can feel uncomfortable and still trust. I cannot see it yet and still know it's happening. I can feel uncertainty without trying to control the outcome. I can be in the in-between without collapsing into fear. This is energetic maturity. This is alignment in its highest form. And this is why this final stage is often referred to as the last contraction. Just like a seed breaks before it sprouts, your energy often contracts right before it expands. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is going backward. Nothing is failing. You're simply integrating the new timeline. The more you let go, the faster it finalizes. When you stop monitoring the manifestation, something shifts. When you stop obsessively replaying how it might arrive, space opens. When you stop needing signs to reassure your faith, the universe can move more freely. Because now, instead of gripping, you're allowing. Instead of pushing, you're receiving. Instead of controlling, you're trusting. This is the final closing of the loop. The moment where you align so deeply with your desired reality that you no longer feel the distance between me now and me with the manifestation. They collapse into one. And in that moment of collapse, the external world follows. If this message found you at the exact moment you needed it, let it stay with you today. Try applying even one small part of what you heard. Just test it in your own energy and see what shifts. And when something moves, even subtly, come back and tell me what you noticed. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If you feel connected to this kind of content, you're welcome to subscribe or share this video with someone who might need the reminder too. If you want to go deeper into this kind of energetic work, Dr. Joe Dispenza's books are truly a gift. They help you understand the science behind what we talk about here, how your mind, energy, and emotions reshape your reality. I've left the links to my favorite books of his in the first pinned comment in case you want to check them out at your own pace.